Now that we've covered all of that in release, let's get on to strengthening. In this video, we're going to cover how to strengthen the toes, the feet, and the low legs. And this will contribute greatly to your process to barefoot or minimalist shoes. Before we get into the exercises, let's cover just a little bit of anatomy. Now, we have intrinsic foot muscles, and those are muscles that are only in the feet. They attach to bones only in the feet. And then we have extrinsic foot muscles, and extrinsic foot muscles attach to the low leg bones, and then they cross the ankle joint and insert into the foot. Now, in this video, I'm going to show you how to strengthen both. And focusing on both the intrinsic and extrinsic foot muscles is going to really help your overall stability and also your gait, walking, and running. Let's get into the exercises. And to start, we're going to the big toes. Now, for the big toes, we really want to make sure that we are grounded down into the joint, and from there, we're going to do big toe lifts. And as we place the big toe down, we're going to lift all the other toes. And we're going to go back and forth and back and forth. If you don't have the ability or the dexterity in your toes to do that, you can assist yourself with your hands. And that looks like this. Placing a hand down on all the little toes and lifting the big toe. And then placing a hand down on the big toes and lifting all the little toes. Feel free to modify that however you need to in order to get the movement done. Now that we've covered the toes, let's move up the foot a little bit. And we're going to work on inversion and eversion. In order to do this, we're going to take a seat and we're going to put one foot forward on the heel. Now, from here, we're going to take the big toe and the sole of the foot and we're going to bring it in toward the midline. And this motion is called inversion. And you can think of bringing this inside of the foot in to remember inversion. Now, we're going to do the opposite, which is eversion. So eversion is when we take the big toe and we push it out away from the midline. So from this position, we go out and back to neutral and out to evert and back to neutral. Next, let's focus on the short foot exercise. Now, if you remember from the beginning, short foot is when we take the foot through pronation and supination, and pronation and supination. And the whole point here with this movement is to make sure that we are maintaining contact with the ground. As soon as the foot lifts up, now you're in inversion. That's not supination. So make sure you have full contact with the tripod, the heel, the head of the fifth metatarsal, and the head of the first metatarsal as we take the foot through pronation and supination. And to make this an exercise, you want to hold each position and make sure that you have the intention and the integrity behind the movement. As you go into pronation, make sure you have that contact. You can feel the joints opening up, the arch is lowering to the ground, and then we're gonna pull into supination and we're gonna pause, making sure that we have the tripod contact, the toes are laying flat, they're not hammering like this, and especially the big toe joint is in contact. Next, let's get into the extrinsic foot muscles, and we're gonna start with the calves, which means we're gonna go through some calf raises. Now, to start, we're gonna be in a neutral position. That means the toes and feet are parallel, facing straight forward, and the feet are directly under the hips. We don't wanna be here, we're not here, we are right here. And to start, we're going to keep in mind that tripod foot. Heel, head of the fifth metatarsal, head of the first metatarsal. We're going to push into that tripod, and then we're gonna lift up onto the toes and come back down. And lift up and down. Now you don't have to balance while you do this. You can hang on to whatever you need to really put the intention and focus into the calf raise and connecting with the calves. The other thing you want to keep in mind and look out for are what your toes are doing. A really common compensation is hammering the toes, and that looks like this. This right here, hammering of the toes, is a sign that the intrinsic foot muscles are weak and the extrinsic foot muscles are taking over. I like to call it extrinsic takeover, and it essentially means that you just need a little bit more work on the intrinsic foot muscles. Now that we've covered the calves, let's cover the anterior tibialis. Now that's a mouthful, but it's essentially your shin muscle. So in order to access that, we're going to lean against a wall. Ideally, your feet are about a foot away from the wall, maybe even a little less. And from there, we're going to ground into our heels, lean against the wall, and we're going to lift the toes up. It's also a bonus if you can do this and spread your toes at the same time. It's going to really change how the movement feels, and you won't only feel it in the tibs, which are here, but you'll also feel it in all those intrinsic foot muscles as well. So we go up and down, and pause at the top and down. Next, let's really access those intrinsic foot muscles. And we're gonna do this by pairing toe crunches with an active toe splay. So in order to do this, we're gonna have a bit of a toe splay here, and then we're going to crunch the toes down as hard as we can, hold for 2 to 5 seconds, and then we're gonna open up and we're gonna splay the toes as much as we can. Really try to spread, get space in between every single toe, hold for 2 to 5 seconds, and repeat the process. In the beginning, you may cramp, and that is okay. Cramping is a sign that the nervous system doesn't quite know what intensity to fire at. And that means that the neural pathways and the muscles just haven't been utilized as they should be. So what you want to do if you're cramping is pause, rub it out if you need to, and then you want to go again, and you only want to crunch and curl as far as you can where you can feel the cramp coming, but it doesn't come all the way. Okay, and then open up active toe splay and repeat. As you get better at this, what you want to do is increase the speed and increase the reps. And this is going to really fire those foot-brain neural pathways and also strengthen those intrinsic foot muscles. And last but definitely not least when it comes to strengthening is balance. Now, it's very simple. We just want to balance on one foot. Now, key things to look for here are the toes clenching and hammering down. Remember, if that's happening, then the intrinsic foot muscles really need some work. We want to be able to balance on one foot, reaching with the toes rather than clenching. We also want to look for our wobbles, and are we falling this way or are we falling that way? Depending on which way you fall will really tell a story of your movement patterns. So pay attention to the wobbles and if you are tending to fall to one side or the other. Balancing is one of the best ways to integrate the intrinsic foot muscles into movement. So make sure you are practicing it on a daily basis. You can get really fancy and progress it by closing your eyes, even moving your head side to side, up and down, and even incorporating tools in order to make the balance more challenging. Now, before we wrap up, let's talk about monitoring your progress and adjusting the program to where you're at on your own journey. Throughout this program, you've probably come across new movements and maybe even movements that you're not able to do yet, and that is okay. When it comes to adjusting this program to where you're at, I want you to think about your threshold. Now, the threshold, I want you to imagine, is an imaginary line. And in order to make progress, we really have to push up against the threshold. But here's the thing, At times, we're going to push past that threshold, and that's where we can feel a bit more sore than usual, maybe even a minor injury. It happens, okay? Give yourself some grace and make sure that your recovery protocols and your recovery tools are ready. But nevertheless, we have to press up against that threshold. So you can expect your toes, your feet, your ankles, your calves especially, to feel a little sore along the way. And that's okay. Just make sure that you are approaching it in a way where your frequency can stay relatively high. Ideally, you do something every single day, but your duration is low. Meaning, if you only spend 5-10 minutes a day, then that is great, and it will take you and allow you to make progress in a really great way over the long run. In this video, we talked about the importance of foot strength. We covered a bunch of exercises you can do and the importance of balance and stability. And now it's time to put it all together so we can get you started in your barefoot shoes. And we're gonna do that on the next one in Adapt. I'll see you there.